Now, we will move to the last presentation of the day. I would like to invite Sudha Tiwari to highlight the untapped potential of diversity and distribution studies of diatoms. Madam, are you present?
Yes, sir, I'm here. Good evening, everyone. Just, sir, give me, sir, 2 minutes to.
Okay, okay, madam.
Okay, so first of all, uh, good evening, everyone. And since I'm the last presenter today, I would like to congratulate everyone else who has presented before me because they were all like very, very like I don't have words actually. So much variety in the studies and so much knowledge. So I feel like simply just completely at loss ki what I'm going to do. So just bear with me for 10 minutes for this presentation. I'm Sudha. Currently, I am working as a guest faculty in Satyavati College, University of Delhi. And before joining here as guest faculty, I was working in SISME, where I have worked for like 8 years almost, and traveling through Himalayas and Western Ghats. And focus of my research area was basically to understand the distribution and diversity patterns of diatoms and how the river basins, like what are the factors that are actually driving their distribution, what are the factors that are actually driving the diversity in there. Is it only the local factors as we come across in some of the studies? Are there any regional controls there, or is it the availability of substrate, and there are so many other factors, variable factors at basin scales that affect the distribution. So today I am not going to present the actual study, the that my data on data. I'm just here to present a review basically, because throughout my study, throughout the duration of my study there, whatever time I have spent there, I have realized, although in our community we can see a lot many studies being done on phytoplanktons and diatoms also, but the focus that diatoms, I think that's with everyone else who is working with like specific group of organism, be it their plants or uh, fishes or any other group of organisms. So we feel like kind of instinct कि हमारे वाले organisms के साथ में कुछ सही नहीं हो रहा है, like we need to do more. So that's the feeling I get कि diatoms deserve more attention. The kind of variety they have in the functions they carry out, the kind of varied environment they are found in, they are ubiquitous, they are found almost from equator to polar region. So they deserve a lot more attention than what they are getting. Basically, when we talk diatoms, we generally restrict them just as a water quality tool, as a water quality monitoring, but they are much more than that. So today just I'm just going to discuss that thing. So what exactly are diatoms? Sorry sir, I have to uh, diatoms are basically, they are organisms, they belong to class Bacillophyceae, and they are present in two forms. Basically they are found in two major forms, centrales and pinnales. Centrales are radially symmetrical
Sorry,
and pinnales
madam.
are.
Excuse me,
Hello,
madam. Can you go to the full presentation mode?
first presentation.
Full presentation mode.
Sir,
This one, yes.
is it fine
It's
now?
not working.
Okay. So they are unique in sense that they are the only organism which live in actual glass houses. They their cell walls are built of amorphous silica. Taxonomically, they are placed under phylum Basilorophyceae and they belong to clade Sternophiles, and they are known for their photosynthetic efficiency, particularly in the marine systems where I
Sorry to interrupt, but the slide is not changing. So if you can go to the slide sharing mode, I hope that will be helpful.
Ma'am,
Uh,
can I just send the slides to like mail it to you on somebody because I'm not able to hear.
No,
okay,
this is fine. This is fine. This is fine. We can see. Just zoom
now
it.
it is
Zoom it.
changing. Now the slide is
Because
Zoom.
ma'am,
changing.
when I'm keeping it full screen, it's not. I'm not able to scroll. Like,
Okay, ma'am. One more request: just increase the
No, zoom.
okay,
what is
that
called
I can.
the
Just
magnification.
zoom
That
in. Just
just
zoom.
zoom it a little bit, and that will do. Yes, yes,
Yes,
that is
yes, fine,
perfect.
fine.
That is
Excellent.
This is
You
good.
carry on. Carry on.
Sorry, I should have done it earlier also. Uh, So this is how diatoms basically look. The on the left side we can see the pinnales basically, which are bilaterally symmetrical, and here these are the diatoms that we come across in like books or on Google search. They are beautiful to look at. So much diversity in their shapes and sizes and everything. And the diatoms that I can see under my microscope, they are, I don't know, they are not as clear and as like they look beautiful to me, but that's how I look. They look under microscope. They are from the samples from Himalayan rivers. So these are basically the diatoms like Didymosphenia coconis, and this coconut species basically Gomphoneema acanthes. These are from the Himalayan river samples, particularly from Arunachal. So as I had said earlier, diatoms are ubiquitous. They are found across environment. So they here some of the environment types, and there are some of the adaptive features. Diatoms are unique organism in that way that they possess both the characters of plants and animals. Plant characters, chlorophyll, they have pigments, they carry out photosynthesis, and animal characteristic when we say they have urea cycle, which is like one of the characteristic features of animals, basically the removal of nitrogenous waste. But here in diatoms, that urea cycle is not for removal of nitrogenous waste, but for resource management basically of carbon and nitrogen. So in the marine environment, the main adaptive features that work for diatom is the ion regulation and the fucoxanthin pigment adaptation. In freshwater, the osmoregulation, the ability to colonize new niches. In the polar regions, the extremely freezing condition, extremely cold condition, they have ice binding proteins which work in like double ways, and then they have slowed metabolism. They can like get their metabolism slowed down, and they can remain dormant for extended periods, so that helps them to survive the extreme cold condition. In the desert or arid conditions, they have these resting spores. They have again these UV protective frustules made up of silica, and in the nutrient poor zones, they have excellent efficiency of like nutrient uptake and these storage vacuoles. So they have so many peculiar features that make them almost present everywhere. So this is like a synthesis of various studies that has listed what diatoms actually do. Diatoms for carbon sequestrations, diatom biorefinery, these artificial upwelling, diatom blooms, and how the climate change is affecting diatom population. So there are studies being done on the diatom population. There are studies being done to help understand the physiology of diatoms basically, and they are being one of the most one of the like most research species to how to mitigate this climate change, that we will come back later. So marine diatoms as system indicators. When I'm saying ki they are one of the main species, since they form the basis of the aquatic food web, they are the primary producers. They are carrying out 40% of photosynthetic activity. They are very very sensitive to pH shift. So ocean acidification, which is resulting as we are facing global warming, we are facing climate change. The sensitivity of towards pH is making diatoms respond rapidly, and their community structure is being altered. Datum abundance also like serve as a proxy for like phytoplankton biomass and oceanic primary productivity, and any difference in the community structure, any difference in like their abundance or their presence or the shift in their species richness indicate like there's something not right with the ecosystem. So these are again various in freshwater systems. There are several studies which are reviewing the datum based indices, how the shifts in datum species is linked to pollution. The earlier presenters, earlier speakers have talked about their own studies, how they were using phytoplanktons as indicator for water quality. So there are a number of studies in there. As I have said, the most like people mostly focus on datums mostly as like a water quality indicator more than any other criteria. Then apart from water quality or biomonitoring thing, what are datums are capable of? Datums, the current studies, some of the studies which are being done, their datums excel in industrial wastewater treatment through metal sequestration and nutrient removal. Datums, but in India again, just like I have said and saying again and again, I may sound like a broken record here, but they're like severely underutilized in India. We don't even have a datum based indices in here for us, because we have so much diversity in habitats, we have so many different kinds of ecoclimatic zones. So datum should be one of the like principal organisms that should be used for water quality monitoring, but we are not using it much. Then novel use of datums in forensic sciences. This is like one of the I would say controversial kind of, not many studies support it, but some of the studies have come out recently which says ki datums should be uh, used in drowning cases, drowning diagnosis. So that's there. What are the various tools and techniques that we use for datum studies basically when we do datum studies? So the first and foremost is your old reliable light microscopy, and then SEM also for the advanced lab, but mostly they are essential for morphological identification, particularly frustule structure and ornamentation. Then there is DNA barcoding, which has been quite prevalent in like recent years, which makes like species identification much more accurate. Then we have some open databases like datum base and algae base, which constantly update the taxonomy of various species, their distribution, their ecological niche, how they are found. So this support global collaboration and biodiversity research. Like it helps a lot these uh, databases. Then we have by key applications and tools. Then there is like Omni India, which uses datum species composition to calculate indices reflecting pollution levels. When one should be like careful to use these kind of indices and software, because the conditions at different sampling sites will be different, and datum diversity to a large extent depends on the local factor. And these indices, mostly the Omni India, the softwares etc., are made on like the reference sites are basically different, so one has to be very careful in using that. Historical comparison we do, we the for the temporal analysis we use datum data, if that is being done at those sites, how the community structure has changed over a period of time. So that is there for historical comparison. And then there is again DNA barcoding, the modern molecular approach. Apart from these ecological usage, there are commercial applications of datums as well. They are used as a filtration media, they are used as a polishing agent, as abrasive agent. They're used in different industries. They're used for making nanomolecules, etc., biosensors, and then uh, I had to sorry, I missed that slide to add in there. So pharmaceutical additives, etc. Besides their first tool structure, basically the ornamentation, etc., is making scientists is inspiring scientists to go for like nanotechnological uh, research. They are being used, and their structure is being used in there. So that is there. The applications of datums are so wide and so varied. Now we are moving back to where it all started. What is the origin like story of datums? Just like the villain origin story, what's the origin story of datums? From where these unique organisms actually came. So datums belong to Straminopiles, a group that includes brown algae or umicides, and they arose through this process called secondary endosymbiosis when a eukaryotic host engulfed a red algal ancestor. And this introduced chlorophyll C and fucoxanthin, which gave them an edge in the marine systems. Molecular clocks estimated that mostly datums originated somewhere like 240, 200 million years ago. But the fossil evidence, they place that time at like around 180 to 140 million years ago. Now, what are the major evolutionary milestones there? The early atoms didn't have these much ornamented these frustules. They lacked these silicified frustules, but over a period of
Madam,
time,
please conclude. It's already 16 minutes.
yes, ma'am. So, biogeography of diatoms, when we say, they are again ubiquitous in aquatic system, and there are like several distribution patterns that we can clearly see. These are like the major genera that we can which dominate the marine diatoms, while the freshwater diatoms we generally come across Navicula, Nitria, and Gomphonia. When we say planktonic and benthic, benthic are the attached forms and planktonic are the suspended form. So planktonic and benthic diatoms, they behave differently, quite differently when we uh, sample from the same site. It's not the same factors which are controlling the planktonic or the benthic algae there. Also, the latitudinal gradient, the tropical regions generally have higher species richness, but temperate zone, they have mostly a higher functional diversity, and polar regions have uh, specific species there. So, what are the major drivers of datum biogeography? The environmental factors, the dispersal, the endemism. Generally, there is one saying, the one often quoted quote is that everything is everywhere, environment selects. But in case of datums, we can see like there are several species which are endemic to a particular region. There are strong regional controls on the distribution of datums, then historical and evolutionary constraints as well. Then why we need to study datum biogeography? It explains the patterns of species richness, dispersal, and adaptation, which is important for ecological point of view. For conservation point of view, we can identify the hotspots of microbial endemism and vulnerability. From the point of view of climate science, we can, if we have large data sets of datum species and environmental variables, calibrated set data sets, then we can it can aid in reconstructing these paleo environments and modeling future changes. Then we have policy and management, which can support the development of these regional specific monitoring tools, and then information about various evolutionary processes, how the speciation occurs, how the migration and the adaptive radiation in microalgae. So these are some of the datum species. What are their ecological tolerances? These are listed here. Last point in here, how citizen science can contribute to the study of datums. The benefits are like so many. We can have broader data cell collection, we can have increased public engagement, it will lead to cost effective monitoring, and we can have real time observations there if there is anything like strange going on in water bodies or something. The citizen scientists can alert the concerned groups there. So these are some of the global initiatives which are there to create awareness, create interest among the people for datums. There is one datum of the month initiative by ISDR, International Society for Datum Research, which is like a global scale. It promotes awareness via images and facts on social media. Then there is Stream Keepers, there is Freshwater Watch, there is UK Riverfly. So the importance, finally, why we are saying so much, why I'm like taking so much of time there.
Ma'am, it's been already 20 minutes. Please wrap it up.
So
Please wrap it up.
yes. So to identify biodiversity hotspots, to identify the climate impact detection as soon as possible, and to get the predictive modeling. But there are certain limitation too as well. Datums are powerful indicators, but their utility depends on lot of accuracy. Like the taxonomy should be correct, the index selection, the regional calibration should be done. There are so many emerging tools which offer some solutions, but they are not 100% accurate. And database monitoring should be used in conjunction. They should not be, despite the strong advocacy of datums, but I will also suggest that they should be used in conjunction with the other biological and physiological indicators. So I wanted to present my study and all, but okay, fine. So this was my study in Arunachal Pradesh, where you can see the benthic datum communities and the suspended datum communities. They were so much different. In like, I have collected samples from almost 55 sites, and this was the result. Sorry, I can't show all the entire results in there, but this is what it is. And sorry for taking too much of time. And thank you everyone for staying. Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Any questions, sir?
Any questions?
Sir, I want. No,
I think there is no question.
thank you.
Okay. We thought this is the last presentation, but
Yes,
I saw
sir.
that Karthik Srivastava has joined. Are you there, Mr. Karthik?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm there.
So, with the permission of the chair, I would like